Thank you, Cowie. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee of the 23rd of May 2024. My name is Craig Griffiths. I'm the Monitoring Officer for the CJC. The first item on today's agenda will be to appoint a Chair and Vice Chair of the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee. And I wonder in that note whether I could have a proposer, please, for the role of Chair of the CJC. Councillor John Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. I'd like to nominate Councillor Rob Stewart for Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harvey. And could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. Are there any members who are opposed to this? If they could indicate, but if not, I can assume that Councillor Stewart can be appointed then as Chair today. Thank you very much. And then secondly, could I have a proposer, please, for Vice Chair?
Craig, could I nominate Councillor Darren Price, please?
Thank you very much. And could I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I can see you indicating there you're seconded. Are members happy to support that recommendation?
Yep.
In that note, I can confirm Councillor Stewart, you've been appointed as Chair, and Councillor Price as Vice Chair. So I'll now hand over to you, Councillor Stewart.
Well, first of all, well, thank you, colleagues, for your support again this year. I look forward to working with you to progress our work on the CJC. Also, I'd like to, if I could, take the opportunity to welcome Councillor John Harvey to his first meeting and congratulate you, John, again on becoming leader of Pembrokeshire Council. Look forward to working closely with you over the coming months.
Thank you very much. Well, appreciate that. Nice to meet everybody this morning. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll move then to item 3 on our agenda, which is the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations for any items on the agenda today that members or colleagues would need to make? Pause for a second. I can't see.
I see no indication, Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chloe. Okay, we'll move then to the minutes of the previous meeting. They're on pages 9 to 14 of your agenda. I'm happy to move those as a true record. Could I ask for a seconder, please?
Yeah, happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Darren. Are we all happy to agree those minutes? Okay, thank you very much. Those are agreed. So we'll move then to item 5, our first full item, which is the reconstitution of the South West Wales Corporate Joint Committee, and it'll be on pages 15 to 26 of your agenda. And I'll go to Craig for this one. Please, Craig.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stewart. So this is a report that we bring to the CJC on an annual basis, as today is effectively cast as our annual general meeting. The purpose predominantly behind the report is to constitute a decision-making processes for the forthcoming civic year for the CJC. What I propose, Chair, is I'll give a very quick overview of the items I'm asking members to agree today, and I'm happy then that we can take those recommendations en masse instead of having to go through each individual one then in turn. So just to give a short overview as to what I'm asking you to agree today. We are established in our CJC here today as the main decision-making body within the Corporate Joint Committee itself, but we have agreed previously to create some subcommittees to look at each of the strands of work which the CJC has the responsibility to do. And at paragraph 9 of your report, I set out what those 4 subcommittees are, which also identify the lead chief executive and the political lead then for each area. Those meetings are chaired then by the political leads, but you will recall that in previous reports, we have agreed that a leader of a council can delegate that function to a fellow cabinet member or an alternative leader should they wish, and that will be within the discretion of each of those leaders as to which way they take that forward. We also then have a governance and audit committee, which is established and led by Pembrokeshire Council. The members to be appointed to that governance and audit committee are included at paragraph 19 of your reports, with no changes to the previous appointees that have been made in that regard, and that meeting then will start to take place then within the forthcoming year. There is a requirement for the CJC to have a standards and ethical framework arrangement in place, which requires a standards committee ultimately to be established. Rather than have a separate standards committee established for the CJC, it has previously been determined that the Neath Talbot Council Standards Committee be adopted as our standards regime going forward. And the reason for Neath Talbot is it's the host authority for the monitoring officer function, which of course vests in myself. We're also required to have an overview and scrutiny committee to oversee and scrutinise the work then of the Corporate Joint Committee. And again, we're proposing the creation of the committee with the members appointed those identified at paragraph 28 of your report. Again, no changes. The only point I would just draw to your attention is we've had the ability this year for substitutes to scrutiny members to be appointed, just to avoid any difficulties in respect of quorum going forward. And I'll be linking in with monitoring officers and fellow authorities to agree who those substitutes will be, just to have a backup list in case ever needed going forward. Our meeting timetable for the proposed year is set out at paragraph 30. These are the dates which we are indicating where obviously the various subgroups and committees will meet. There may of course be the possibility for additional meetings to be required, and where that happens we'll link in to try and ascertain availability of the requisite parties who are required. We've agreed previously that co-optees will ultimately be appointed to the CJC with a non-voting status, and the names of the co-optees then are listed at paragraph 32 of your report. We are also undertaking some work at the moment to establish an advisory board to the CJC representing private sector advisors, and we do have some individuals who have been appointed to date, and those are identified at paragraph 34 of your report. However, we are embarking on a further recruitment exercise in order to expand that pool, and future reports will be brought back then to the CJC for approval down the line. So those are all the decisions we're asking the CJC ultimately to make today. And at page 13 and 14 of your papers, we've set out specifically all of those recommendations, Chair. Again, happy that they can be moved en masse, and then the CJC will be constituted for the forthcoming year.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Craig. Really helpful run through there. Any questions or comments for Craig on any of the items that he's taken us through? I'll go to Judith first. Judith, can you come in?
Yeah, hi, Borodar. As you know, I'm the current interim chair of Haldar, and my term of office ends at the end of May, and Dr. Neil Wooding will take over as chair from the 1st of June. So I just need to make a correction really on section 32, is in that Emma Woolett also leaves as chair of Swansea Bay Health Board at the end of May, and the new chair has been appointed, who is Jan Williams, so that will need correcting, please.
Thank you very much for that, Judith. We'll note that
No
in the
problem.
minutes, and it'll be recorded then for future meetings. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we'll make sure
Yes,
that's
okay.
recorded, Chair.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, Judith, and perhaps if I pause there, take the opportunity to thank you for the work that you've done, and also Emma for your contributions, and obviously wish you all the best in whatever your next role is. So, you know, all the best from us on the committee, and thank you for your contributions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so are there any other questions, comments for Craig? If not, Craig did suggest that we take all of those as a bundle, so can I ask colleagues to show if you're in favour of the report, please? Okay, thank you very much. That is agreed. We'll now move on to item 6, which is the South West Wales Regional Transport Plan. We've got a programme update. So if I can welcome Stuart Davis. Stuart, if you'd like to take us through this item.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a brief update, really. So the purpose of the report is to seek approval for an amendment to the programme for the submission of the Regional Transport Plan, with a recommendation that that's approved. As there have been a couple of reports previously on the Regional Transport Plan for the Case for Change and the Implementation Plan. And at those stages, we did indicate that there were the timescales. I think the preferred timescales from Welsh Government were incredibly challenging. So hopefully it doesn't come as a surprise that we're flagging up a kind of a slippage against the initially identified programme. So in the report, we've sort of detailed this in section 2 of the report with a revised timeline. What had been proposed in terms of the initial timeline was that we'd be submitting a first draft on the 29th of May this year, and the intention, and then there would be an intention to submit the final draft on the 31st of October. There's consultation work that the Welsh Government have encouraged us to do in terms of the early stages. So this has meant that the timeline will move. So the plan is, subject to obviously pre-election period and things in there, that we go to consultation relatively soon now, that we don't submit a first draft in terms of to Welsh Government this May, but that we submit a policy update to Welsh Government in July. So that'll be a kind of a gathering of the policy sort of statements and things relating to the RTP, and a final draft to be submitted still on the original timescale to Welsh Government at the moment of the 31st of October. But obviously we will need to consider this in light of the election announcement yesterday. So that's where we are at the moment. So as I say, it won't be surprised that we have shifted from there. We have had informal sort of discussions with Welsh Government who are comfortable with the changes. And obviously, as the programme continues, we'll provide further updates in terms of how we proceed and how the RTP gets developed. So, thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, for that. And as you say, inevitable really that the initial date would move, but again, holding close to the end date, which is great. So I'll come to Darren now, who's obviously the subcommittee chair on this item as well. So Darren.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, just to add to what Stuart's mentioned there. To be fair, I'd want to thank officers across the 4 counties for the huge amount of work they've been doing on this. You know, we've been aware from the very start in terms of the resource requirement and, you know, frankly, the lack of funding that we've had up to now. We knew that timescales would be difficult to meet because of the amount of work that officers have got on their plate. Let's be honest, not helped recently, of course, you know, with the fact that the 20-mile-hour review was taking place, so that also will hit our highways and transport team. So there's a lot of work that we're expecting these departments to undertake on our behalf, and it needs to be recognised, I think, you know, from our perspective. And I just thought it was important to put that on record this morning. And I think that the letter from the Minister, which recognised the progress we've made in terms of presenting the case for change, you know, recognises the huge amount of effort that officers have made in South West Wales. So I think it's important to recognise that. But clearly now we look to hit that next deadline during the autumn, following the important public consultation stage. But just a big deal from me as chair of the subcommittee for the work that's gone on in the background. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Fully agree with that in terms of you know, the thanks to the officers and the highlighting of the pressures that we're under. As you know, with your support, Britain to Welsh Government, to highlight the fact that whilst we're keen to get on with the work programme as the CJC, then the level of funding does have to be commensurate with the amount of work that they're asking us to do. And again, we'll continue those detailed discussions with Welsh Government, and I'm hopeful of us getting a more sustainable position with Welsh Government so that we can crack on with the work that we need to do. So very much on the same page as you with all of those comments. Okay, are there any other contributions on this item? Any comments or questions for either Stuart or for Darren? No, I don't see any hands. So if that's the case, then can I ask colleagues if we're happy to agree with the report as laid out with the amended dates and the advice that we received from Stuart? Okay, thank you very much. That's agreed. Okay, our final item for today is the Welsh Language Standards Update. So I'll come to Christy Tillman. Christy's going to take us through this report.
Good morning, all. The purpose of the report is to update members, really, that we received the compliance notice from the Commissioner on the 24th of April with exclusions to 2 items of the standards, which are publishing our standards and reviewing our standards after publishing our standards and sorry, I mixed my words up. Publishing our strategy of over a 5-year period and reviewing that strategy and publishing the findings then thereafter. So they've been excluded from the final compliance notice. So the purpose really is to inform members of the compliance notice and for noting and to delegate the Chief Executive to implement the standards as acceptance to the Welsh Language Standard and Compliance Notice. Sorry, I think that's the purpose, and the recommendations are to delegate to the Chief Executive.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy. That's really clear. Comments and questions. I'll come to Aled first, please. Aled.
Yeah, thanks very much for that update. It's really useful and the paperwork is good as well. Rob, I'm just wondering here whether we need to put on the agenda to future meeting how we're actually progressing over the promotion of the Welsh language. I always feel these days when I get reports on standards, they can be rather formal and flat. And I'm just wondering whether you would reflect, Rob, that possibly at one stage we need to have a good, honest reflection of what's actually happening with the number of Welsh speakers within our area and to see what we need to do. I think that would be perhaps useful, but I just offer it to colleagues as a thought. I think everything's okay for today. It's clear, and I think we would want to recommend it. But I do think possibly we need to put some distinctive set apart efforts to make sure that we are delivering on it. And I know there's left to the chief exec, but I think we would be good to have a good reference point there. Just a suggestion for our colleagues in meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Aled. I have no issue with that. I'll take some advice from the chief executives about whether this is the right panel to have such an update, or whether it be one of the other regional panels. But certainly the principle of getting an update in terms of where we are with the expansion of Welsh learners and Welsh speakers, I think that is something we can consider. But I'll ask the chief executive some advice, and we'll come back with a response to that. Will?
Yes, good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Yeah, I'll go away and get some advice on that. This is very much about our obligations as a joint committee to operate within the standards, and the appendices lay all those standards out in terms of some of the wider aspects of the promotion of the Welsh language within the region, within education, learning, in terms of wider promotion. Most of those duties are delegated to other institutions in terms of responsibilities in that regard. But absolutely within the thematics that we are legally bound to deliver, you know, particularly with regard to planning and to transport and to the economy. So there we have a wider responsibility, I think. But let me go away and just cross check how we might do that. And in terms of the implementation of these standards, yes, I'll absolutely come back with an update on later in the year on how we're progressing towards the deadline, which in almost all cases is, I think, the 30th of October off the top of my head. Yeah, I think in most cases it's 30th of October.
Okay, thank you, Will. That's really helpful. Are there any other comments and questions on this item? If not, then again, could I ask colleagues if you are in favour of the report, please? Thank you very much. Okay, that's carried, and that is our last item of business for today. We've been very efficient. Can't promise all of our future meetings will be as short and succinct, but I think we've got a good way forward today. So can I thank you all very much again for your attendance, and look forward to working with you over the coming months. Diolch.
Thank
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
you.